Looming American Housing Crisis, a deep dive. The American dream of homeownership is becoming increasingly out of reach for many across the country. The 2008 housing crisis left a trail of devastation in its wake, with millions of families losing their homes and their dreams of homeownership shattered. But let me tell you, the crisis we're facing today is different, and in many ways, even more alarming. The current housing crisis isn't just about mortgages and foreclosures. It's a multifaceted issue that touches on everything from rising rent prices to a severe shortage of affordable housing units. And if we don't address it head on, the consequences could be catastrophic for millions of Americans. So let's take a deep dive into the looming housing affordability crisis. Back in 1950, for the first time since the Industrial Revolution shook things up, people were packing their bags and leaving the hustle and bustle of the cities behind. They were heading out to these newfangled places called suburbs, a word that probably sounded as foreign as some of the exotic destinations our soldiers had just returned from. Now, the median home sold in the post-war era cost a mere $7,400. And you know what's even crazier? The median household income at the time was just $2,900 per year, and that was typically earned by a single breadwinner in the family. This means the prospect of homeownership was not a distant mirage, but a tangible reality within their grasp. Meanwhile, an average house back then only reflected about 2/3 of the average household income. It was almost like these homes were an afterthought, a casual purchase that didn't break the bank. And you know what? People didn't even feel the pressure to pay these modest homes off right away. Interest rates were relatively low during this post-war period, so there wasn't much urgency to make extra payments. Housing wasn't seen as this massive expense that would haunt you for decades. Fast forward to today, and that scenario sounds almost ludicrous, right? Homes have become these massive investments, these financial burdens that have weighed heavily on our shoulders for decades. The idea of a house is an afterthought that costs less than a couple of cars. It's almost unimaginable, but that's the reality we're living in now. The housing market has undergone a seismic shift, and the dream of being a house owner has become an uphill battle for many Americans. According to the latest numbers from the National Association of Realtors, the median existing home price was up nearly 5% in March 2024 compared to last year. That's the 9th month in a row we've seen year-over-year increases. Moreover, after the pandemic, we thought that maybe prices would finally start correcting and become a bit more reasonable. But the total opposite happened. According to NAR's data, those median home sale prices are surging with record highs again. In March, the median was $393,500, not too far off from the all-time peak of $413,800 we saw back in June 2022. Can you even fathom numbers like that for a regular family home? Besides that, home prices have been outpacing wage growth, which is just making the affordability crisis even more intense. NAR's chief economist, Lawrence Yun, summed it up perfectly. Anytime home prices lap people's incomes, that's a huge problem. However, homeownership has become a failed dream for many, especially first-time buyers and those with lower incomes. The reasons for this are complex, but they boil down to a few key factors. First, there's the issue of supply and demand. According to experts, the United States has a severe shortage of affordable housing units, particularly in major metropolitan areas. This shortage has driven up home prices to levels that are simply unattainable for many would-be buyers. For years, the construction of new homes has lagged behind population and household formation growth, resulting in a severe housing shortage across many markets. Restrictive zoning laws, labor shortages, and high material costs have all contributed to the sluggish pace of new home construction. On the demand side, demographic shifts such as millennials entering their prime home buying years, the rise of investor activity, and the desire for second homes have further fueled competition for the limited housing inventory. According to Skylar Olson, chief economist at Zillow, we're just completely out of whack when it comes to supply and demand for homes right now. And unfortunately, her prediction is that home prices are going to keep climbing higher in 2024. And this is amazing news if you're a seller looking to cash out. But for those first-time buyers desperately trying to get their foot in the homeownership door, it's a total gut punch. Here's where it gets even more disheartening though. Realtor.com's latest report shows that those pesky high mortgage rates have skyrocketed the monthly costs of financing a typical home by nearly 3% compared to last year. We're talking an extra $63 per month that buyers have to cough up now. Now let's take a look back from 2005 to 2007. We all remember how frothy and overheated things were before the whole house of cards came crashing down in spectacular fashion. The memories of that real estate bubble bursting and the global economic nightmare that followed are still burned into our minds. When I think about the mass foreclosures, the $1 trillion in housing wealth that just evaporated, and the pain so many families went through, it's a sobering reminder of how quickly fortunes can shift in this market. So you can't blame folks for getting a bit of PTSD nowadays when mortgage rates start spiking and talks of a potential recession start swirling again. We've seen this movie before, and it didn't have a happy ending last time. People understandably wonder if we're in store for another housing market crash. But here's the thing, and I really want to emphasize this: the housing experts don't see a full-blown crash on the horizon this go-round. Yes, prices could potentially come down some from these dizzying highs we've witnessed, but we're not talking about a complete meltdown and freefall like we saw 15 years ago. That was a once-in-a-generation type of event that left scars, you know? The big difference now is that homeowners, by and large, are just in a way stronger financial position compared to back then. Their personal balance sheets look solid, good credit, tons of home equity built up, and a nice chunky buffer with those low fixed-rate mortgages locked in. In fact, according to the latest Realtor.com analysis, 2/3 of current mortgage holders are sitting pretty with rates below 4% right now. But why is this such a big deal? Well, the consequences of this housing crisis are far-reaching and deeply concerning. For starters, there's the issue of economic mobility. When a large portion of a person's income is going towards rent or mortgage payments, it leaves little room for savings, investments, or even basic necessities like food and healthcare. This cycle of financial strain can trap families in poverty, making it nearly impossible for them to build wealth or achieve economic stability. But it's not just about money. The housing crisis also has a profound impact on mental and physical health. Study after study has shown that stable, affordable housing is a crucial determinant of overall well-being. When families are forced to live in substandard or overcrowded conditions, or when they're constantly worried about being evicted or priced out of their neighborhoods, it takes a toll on their mental and emotional state. For instance, in the District of Columbia, a recent report by the Urban Institute found that 12% of the city's 82,000 residents don't even have stable housing to call their own. That's nearly 10,000 people lacking that basic necessity most of us take for granted. However, for too long, this issue seemed like one of those problems that gets paid lip service but never fully prioritized or addressed with any real urgency. But I have to give props to the Biden administration for finally recognizing that they can't keep sweeping housing insecurity under the rug anymore. Maybe it's because they realize it's eroding confidence in the economy as a whole. Whatever the motivations, they did just unveil a pretty bold series of policy proposals to try to start turning the tide. You can tell they're deploying a full court press approach here by pulling together public and private sector forces. The game plan seems to be centered around three main fronts. First, take aim at those exclusionary zoning laws that have kept affordable housing so scarce in many communities. It's 2024. We need to get with the times on that front. Second, expanding financing channels will give developers more pathways to build and maintain affordable units that real working families can actually afford. Third, we need to get creative by incentivizing the conversion of those endless empty office spaces into much-needed apartment housing. It's a smart way to adapt to the modern workspace shifts. Now look, I'm not naive enough to think these policies alone will magically solve the affordable housing crisis overnight. This is one of those multi-generational challenges that will take sustained effort and investment to really move the needle in a meaningful way. However, I have to respect the fact that the Biden administration is at least putting some bold ideas out there and showing a real commitment to tackling this head-on. Meanwhile, what do you think about the impending housing crisis? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for watching.